Hey Hebrew fans, this is Todd. So today we are going to talk about painting.
New Robitussin Naturals Cough Relief Gummies, powered by the best of nature to help relieve cough and help clear mucus.
Oh, wow, I guess there's commercials first. All right, while you guys are waiting, go ahead and download the sheet. So you can download this sheet right here, and it's on today's class. And class is number 5 right now. So this is the cool handout that goes with it. So go ahead and download that. Hey, Bo, thanks for joining us. I appreciate you being here. So let's see. Anyway, do you know how to turn the oh, there it is, live chat. All right. Hey, Ben, thanks for being here too. I appreciate it. So today we're going to talk about how to paint with a brush. Hey, DPT, thanks for being here. And how to make it look basically like airbrush when you're done. So I want you to take a look at these 2 Batman heads. And this is the one that came with it normally. And this is the one that came with the blue Batman. Now, if you take a look, the black Batman head just looks really kind of strange. And so I actually like the blue one better. But if you put the blue Batman head on the gray and black Batman, it's just going to look kind of strange. So I'm going to take and paint the blue on here black. And so that's our goal. So first thing we have to do is we have to actually clean this and get it ready to paint. So to clean it, we're going to use alcohol, and I happen to have some right here. And I do suggest when you paint heads to put it on a stick. What's that guy's name?
Aiden.
Aiden? Thanks, Aiden. Glad you could join us. So I suggest putting on a stick and make sure it's tight in there so it doesn't come off while you're painting it, and then also while you're putting your clear coat on afterwards. So I went and got a stick already. I put it on there. It's a little metal ball. I put a little O-ring on the inside of the head to make it so it fits really tight. And then I've also already sanded the size of the hole a little bigger around. When you first get a figure and you go to use a head that's going to be removable or not, if you look at the size of the circle on the inside, it lets you know basically if the head's made to be removed or not. Well, the black one is because it has that alternate head you could buy, but the blue one was not. And so that small little circle inside was actually closed more, so I had to sand it around with the Dremel tool to open it up. So it will be easily to remove. All right, let's go ahead and wash this. So let's get our alcohol scrubs. Now I'm using a 99% alcohol. You don't have to use something that strong. I just happen to have a bunch of this because I do other things with it as well. So you just want to put a little bit on the towel that you're using. You want to rub it all around really good. Make sure you get it completely wet everywhere. And then after you get it all wet everywhere, thanks. I appreciate you joining us. Then you want to dry it with the dry part of it. And this is basically to get rid of any residue that might be on there. So you want to get all the residue off so that the paint will adhere really well. Otherwise, it may not stick very well. All right, let me just pop that back on there. Get it ready for our painting. All right, so next is your brush selection. When you choose your brush, you want to have a nice, soft bristled brush. So I personally like the ones that are slightly angled. And then you want to make sure that it's nice and soft, because if it's not, you'll end up rubbing the paint back off the way I apply this. I'm going to show you guys a technique, which is kind of like a dry brush technique. You know what? I think I might actually spring for a brand new brush. How about that? Just for today's presentation. You know what? These are not very soft. I guess I won't use these. I'll put those aside. They were a gift from somebody, which I appreciate them giving me a gift of brushes, but unfortunately, they're not very soft. Here we go. Here's a nice, super soft one This is really soft. It's angled. This will work really good. And it's wide, so I don't have to keep going over the head over and over again. So now to choose the paint. Now, I could go with this nice cheap paint right here, which is like $2 a bottle, I believe. Or I could go with the more expensive Valo paints like this. And these paints are really good. And whenever I paint faces or heads, I always use these paints here. Or you can also go with these washes that I usually use afterwards in order to put like some kind of wash on the top of it. And I use these all the time for my last finishing touch. Now for this paint...
Somebody wants to know, is there a reason for super soft brushes over stiff brush?
Yes, and I'll show you that in a minute, because my technique that I use to get it nice and smooth, if the brush is not super soft, then you'll keep wiping the paint back off. And that's what we don't want. So I'm going to use this cheap paint here. And what's cool about this paint is it washes off with the water. It's an acrylic paint, and it's just $2 a bottle. I have two versions of it. This I call my thin black. I also have another black that I bought, which is actually a lot thicker. And so I'm just going to use my thin black, and it's basically more watered down. And whenever you apply your paint, you want to apply lots of coats very thin. So let me put some on the cup here. Always shake your paint, whether it wants to be shook or not. Some paints you try to shake it, and it's just so thick it doesn't do anything, but shake it anyway. Then take your paint, and you want to put just a little bit on there, and then wipe off most of it. Just so you have it so it's just barely putting any color on at all. Then after you get it just like that, you now want to go ahead and start applying the paint to it. You'll notice let me add a light so you guys can see better. All right, is that better? All right, well, have fun walking your dog. Anyway, you just keep applying this lightly, and it's almost like you're doing a dry brush. And you want to do this so you don't get paintbrush marks, because we found that it's really easy to get paintbrush marks when you're painting. So putting on these super light coats, when you get close to an edge, get a little thicker, just so you don't have to go over that edge over and over again.
It says cool stream.
Thanks, James. And then you want to try to get most of that away from that spot so you don't have a thick paint buildup in that area. So just kind of wipe it all around. And again, when you get close to the edge, just put a little dab right on the corner of the sharp part of the brush. And then just very carefully just run it up the side. And then again, pull it away from that edge. Now, it's going to get a little tricky because I do not want to accidentally paint over his eyes, because I don't want to repaint them again, because it just seems like when you try to paint a little white spot over a black area, it just does not work very well. Let me first tilt his head forward. And you'll notice I was able to touch the paint because it dries so quick when you use this technique, because you're just barely brushing it on. Like I said, it's just like a dry brush. There we go. Oops. Now, because this paint is water-based paint, you guys wipe it right off. No big deal. You can take a Q-tip even. Sorry, you want to get that wet for me? I didn't bring any water in. My wife's going to run and grab us some water. Just put like about 5 drops in there. Maybe 10. Meanwhile, while she's doing that, let's go ahead and continue painting this. Thanks. So have Q-tips on the ready with some water, and then you just want to take and just dab the Q-tip in the water. And because it is water-based, it should just come right off, and you can fix those lines and clean them right up. Now, what's nice about this is if you totally blow it and you don't like your paint job, because it is water-based, or because it does wash off with the water, you can just run the whole head under a faucet and just clean it off and start over again. I've done that many times. It's like, oh, it just looks horrible. And I'll just take it in the bathroom, turn the water on, and just hose it right down and start over again. Or if you're using a nicer, more expensive paint, you won't be able to do that because it's not water cleanable like that. There we go. All right. So let's go ahead and fix up these lines now. Now, as you get close to these little detail areas, you're going to want to switch to a more accurate brush. I'm sorry. Can you grab my glasses that with the red on the side too? They're on my desk. I meant to grab those. My wife's going to grab my better glasses too so I can see more detail work to get right around here close. And the bad part is she's also the one that reads the comments to me. So if you're putting a comment in right now, I cannot see it. So you have to wait a minute. And then just keep reapplying it in all the areas over the top, which is why you don't want to have a brush with hard bristles. Otherwise, you'll just wipe it right back off. Oh, thank you. I got my more blowing up glasses here so I can see better. And now I'm going to get a much smaller brush in order to get the really close details around his eyes. So I got a smaller brush now here. And I have some smaller ones besides this. This way I can get really close in.
Aiden said, Hebrew, I wanted to send you some customs. Do you have a contact info?
Go to he-bro.com. And once you're on he-bro.com, you'll see a link for my Facebook. And that's the way to get a hold of me. he-bro.com. And there should be a link on my YouTube channel for it too. All right. It's always so hard to get right around the eyes really close without having to redo them. Now, a lot of customizers will just, throw caution to the wind, just paint over the eyes and redo them later. Like I mentioned before, I like having as much of the factory paint as possible on my figures. Are there any other questions right now coming in?
Mm-mm.
Can you see us okay on the screen? Or am I off frame?
No. See the whole thing you're doing.
And again, you want to try to smooth this out as much as you can so you don't get any globs of paint anywhere. All right, now for the other side. That side went a lot better.
Somebody wants to know, could you maybe use masking fluid or something similar like they use in watercolors to cover the aisles while painting?
That would be a really cool idea, and I probably could have done that. I have thought about looking into getting stuff like that, but I haven't yet. What I've done before, actually, when I've done Skeletor's eyes, is I've actually used the blue tack and stuffed that into the eye sockets. There we go. Notice I grabbed a little bit smaller brush to get really close to the eyes. Now, if I did mess up and get in his eye, I just break a Q-tip in half and I would carefully clean it out with some water. Which is the beauty of using this paint. All right, so now let's grab my soft brush again. Let's finish up all the areas. Make sure there's almost no paint on it at all. And again, you're just almost dry brushing this on. Getting rid of any wet spots you see on there that was caused from the other paintbrush. Just to smooth it all out.
The new Origins and He-Man at Walmart. Can you get a He-Man and custom painted to the faker, and so we can see what it looks like?
That'd be a lot of effort, and I'm just going to wait till they release Faker, just because trying to paint all the joints would be a nightmare. Anytime you paint a joint, you have to do a lot of special things to it. One of the things you have to do is you have to first sand the joint down so there's lots of movement so you don't scrape the paint off. Second is after you've painted the joint, you need to coat it with a light super glue like this right here, so that the paint will not be scraped off as easy. So there's a lot of tricks to get that to work right, and it's just way too much effort when I know they're going to release a faker anyway, eventually. I think I would start with a blue figure if I was going to do that. I know they don't have any blue figures yet, but trying to paint a whole entire figure is it looks cool as long as you don't move it. But as soon as you pose it and move it, that paint scrapes off so quick, and it just looks really bad then. And you got all these little spots that... All right, so now I'm just trying to get all the wet spots I left behind smoothed up. Make sure I get all the blue stuff covered. And like I said, the trick to this is to keep that brush moving. And you're basically applying lots of coats over and over and over again in short bursts, because you're keeping the paint so thin that it just dries super quick. All right, I think I'm just about done there. So you can see how that paint was going on. I mean, there's almost nothing to it at all. Now it's going to go back through just to clean up any more extra brush strokes I might have left behind, just so it looks really smooth. And the worst thing you can do is gloop your paint on stuff because it just makes it look awful.
The guy that asked you about Walmart says thanks for answering my question.
Oh, you're welcome. Okay, it's just about done drying. I can feel my brush just catching a little bit as I pull this around.
Says you are 100% right. I'm dealing with that right now.
Oh, what, the joints?
I think so.
All right. So I'm going to go send this off to be clear coated. And because I can't really run the camera down very easily. Life has volunteered to take this paint right here, and I find this works really good. I like to use the UV resistant paint. They have different versions. This costs about twice as much to get the UV resistant as opposed to the regular clear matte. Make sure it's matte. This will keep your figures from getting sticky. And what's cool about this is the second you put this paint on, well, remember we have this cheap paint on this right here, but the second this paint hits it, it's going to hit that dry, crusty paint, and it's going to just soak right into it. And it's going to turn it into a super nice paint. And so this acrylic coating is going to actually soak in quick, and then it will become a nice permanent paint. So once you add this, you're done. You're not going to clean it off because you're going to destroy the figure doing that. Now, before I send her downstairs to paint it, I'm going to go ahead and mask this face a little bit, just because I don't want to get clear coat paint all over this nice skin tone. So I'm going to grab some blue tape, and I'm going to cut it out to fit the shape. I'm just going to stick that on there, just like that. Bring it around town and cut off this side. See how close I can get it. Oh, so close. So, not that big of a deal. I'll just take another piece of tape and just stick it on the end right there. And it doesn't need to be perfect because she's not actually painting color. She's painting just clear. You just want to keep the most of it off the face. It doesn't need to perfectly cover the face exactly right. Just get some tape on there, just so you don't end up with a sticky mess, because sometimes when you get paint on the original figure, it will cause kind of a sticky mess. I'm just going to leave the eyes unmasked because it's a clear coat. So that's going to be just fine for the eyes. There we go. Actually, I still see a little spot of blue. Where's my brush? Are there any more questions coming in? Remember, whenever you add paint, just keep rubbing it in until it dries on the figure while you're still brushing it with the soft bristles. It's almost like a dry brush technique. All right, we'll see you in a few minutes. All right, I handed my wife the baton. She's on her way to go paint this. Oh, yes, that's this way. Always shake your paint really good. Check it out. After the clear is on there, it's like it's just factory made almost. And let's go ahead and swap on. You can see how close it is. Of course, it's pretty easy to match black.
Somebody said, I figure the first time you mix the paint offline, you'll get it the first time.
Probably. And that's kind of a tight fit, so I have to heat it up with my heat gun in order for the head to fit on there. There we go. I got brown paint on for my thumb. We'll show this side. Hey, look at that. Anyway, so there's the new head. I do have some cleanup to do as I got some brown paint from my thumb on him when I was pushing him on. I should have cleaned my fingers first, but there he is with his black head so you guys can see how it works. And let me show you some other ones I've already painted that actually did work with the color. So this is my custom Whiplash 2000X, and his original head was actually this color right here. And you can see the difference between the two heads. And basically I did the same thing, just kept doing a wash with green over it until I got it just right. And I had to mix the colors, and I used a Q-tip that I cut at an angle to clean out his eyes after I painted him. And then also I cleaned his teeth the same way. So there's my cool 2000X fist or Whiplash. And then another one that I've painted was this He-Man. Obviously his armor was originally gray, and I decided to paint it with a silver. I mixed silver and black to make it, and then repainted the red a little darker. And then I also did the tops of his boots too to give it the fur look. Now when you do a fur look like this, you want to use multiple colors. I first started with a light tan, and then went to a medium brown, and then went to a darker brown. And then you want to use a dry brush technique. And one of my favorite brushes that I like to use for this is this one that looks almost like I don't know.
You're saying orange and burgundy, I'm telling you. That's the colors. Orange and burgundy will make her hair color.
I'll have to try that. I don't have any burgundy, unfortunately, so I'll have to try that. So, again, like I said, for here, I just took kind of like a dry brush over it to give it that furry look. And then another one that I've painted and matched was his head, which you've seen in other videos. This was actually from the was it Super 7? No. I can't think who it was, but those little 7.5 inch, or those little 5.5 inch figures they have now, I cut off his head and then shaped it to fit on here, as you guys saw with the head fix we did last week. And then I used a wash over it to match his skin tone. because it was actually a very brighter blue, and it didn't match the skin tone. And then last, I went back and silver coated his arm cuffs and did a light silver wash on his weapons because they have kind of a yellowish tint to them, and I wanted them more silvery looking. So that was my fixes on there, or my paints. So I think that's all I got. Sorry we failed on Tila. That really stinks. I was hoping to show you guys something really cool where we fixed Tila on camera. But what I'm painting next is this. See if you guys can guess what this is. Let's see when he writes in and says what they think it is. I'll give you a hint. I'll put in who is supposed to be by, or what other line he's with.
Don't worry about Tila. You're giving us some good info.
Yeah. Here's how not to
I
mix
think
paint.
it's Snarf.
It is Snarf. Good job. This is my new Snarf, and he's 1.5 times larger than the one he got from Loyal Subjects. And so once I put the head on him, he'll be a much closer match to how big he's supposed to be next to Lion-O. So there you go. Here's my Snarf I'm working on. He's pretty cool. He's pretty big compared to the other one, and so I already gave him his first coat. Yep, it's a kind of a primer coat, and then I'm going to go ahead and just paint him from that. All right, so eventually I'll show you guys this one complete, and next week I believe we're doing 3D printing, and I'll show you how I did my Snarf, I think, or maybe the stand for the Orko or something. We're not going to spend a lot of time on 3D printing because there's lots of videos on it. It's more about how to set up your stuff for 3D printing more than how to actually do it. All right, you guys, thanks for watching. Are there any questions I missed? Don't forget to download the sheet so you can see the stuff I use. And I got a mess of paint to clean up here, and hopefully I'll fix Tila's head. Hey, Will, thanks. You guys, thanks for watching. I'll see you guys next Saturday. And don't forget, I got videos throughout the whole entire week that you guys can check out. All right, now, bye now, and that's all I got. Having that?
Bye.
Like, subscribe, tell your friends. Bye now.